When students come, you've been training students like mm, every year, 40 of them coming together to make a film. In fact, you train them, you mentor them to make 4 films. What is the journey from the point they come up with the topics, have a dialogue about it, and to the point they go and make it? How, do you remember, or can you just talk about what do women go through they and when they start of making a documentary film?
First, before I answer that question, let me just say how excessively proud I am of all my students. Particularly today, Madhuri, because she's made a film on women. Most of my students do end up using gender, and gender does become an important part of their work identity. Madhavi has created this wonderful space here at Films Division. Another student of mine, Paramita, has created another space for documentaries at Vikalp. So I am exceedingly proud of all my students. Now I'll answer your question. The journey for a student as she comes in is, first of all, most of the time there is a lack of awareness that there is a gender factor. There's a lack of awareness that there could be discrimination. They haven't even thought that they've been discriminated most of the time. As they continue to make films, they begin to realize that even if they're making films that are not gender-based, they gradually, because of the number of talks that we have at the college, the number of issues that we expose them to, they then begin to see that there is a gender inflection in almost every topic that they choose. So there is a great sense of self-discovery. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Madhavi even made a Madhuri, were you in the same class? That means you made one on domestic violence. And I think that's when everybody realized that they all had friends who had been through domestic violence. But even if they're making something that's not like that, they begin to see that. And then, of course, there's a whole other journey. They discover not just gender, but they discover class, they discover economic disparities. They generally begin to start an inward journey as they continue to make their film. And as Madhuri very rightly pointed out, you think filmmaking is about others, but it really goes deep into yourself.
Have you seen a change in the attitude of films or approach to films recently when girls come to
Major. Many years ago, my students wanted to make a documentary on child sexual abuse. Many years ago. And I said, okay, it's going to be very difficult. You go ahead, but no one's going to talk. And they said, no, we want to go ahead. So I said, okay, go ahead. Then after a little while, after a few days, one girl came to my office and broke down and said, I can't do the documentary because I have suffered from child sexual abuse. So I said, okay, let's see what we can do. Maybe we'll change the group. I didn't say anything. I kept quiet and we tried to change the group. And after 2-3 days, another student came and said, I can't make the documentary because I'm going to be emotionally upset if I do it. I don't want to face it. Out of a group of about 10, 5 students, four students came up to me. And finally, they didn't make the film. I said, okay. I didn't tell any one of them that each one had told me the story separately, but then they decided not to make it. Many years later, a girl speaks out and says, I have suffered child sexual abuse, and I want to make a documentary on it. So, no, actually, she said, I want to make a documentary on child sexual abuse. Then I said, well, you're not going to have a problem getting a subject. So she said, I'm the subject. I have suffered. So I said, are you prepared to tell your story? Because it's quite traumatic. So she said, she thought about it. I said, you think about it and let me know. And then, as she reveals in the film also, it was the first time she'd ever spoken about it. It was in the class because the environment was a very protective one that she spoke about it. And then there was a determination to speak out. And then, of course, she did speak out. And then I said, have you told your parents? Have you told your husband? She was married. And then she said, no, but I will tell him. And then she told him, and then she told her parents. I don't know afterwards. So it was quite something.